Alright, again, welcome back folks to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. This YouTube channel is dedicated to helping players advance their field command and dominate their game in Bannerlord through the use of tactics and pre-battle logistics and setup. Today we're going to try to have a battle here. I've got a couple of castles and cities that are under siege nearby that we can go attack whoever's attacking there and have a battle. But before we do that, I'm going to talk in much greater detail about how I form my army, how I create the composition of the troops, and then how I assign different army group divisions to my different areas of tactical command. Of course, a lot of people, maybe even yourself, use 3, sometimes 4 different divisions of troops, right? You typically have your archers, your infantry, and your cavalry, and sometimes you'll have maybe a 4th division, a horse archer group or something like that. I use 8 divisions, and I'll show you very clearly why before battle and during battle, the advantages that I feel come from having all 8. But I think it's very important for the average player to understand that building yourself up to 8 divisions, 8 army groups, is a process. You're not going to just start your first week of Bannerlord and start assigning yourself 8 different army groups because you'll be overwhelmed. There's military studies that have been done on something called the span of control. I'm an active duty firefighter as well, former military, and the span of control basically is a psychological study that represents the human brain's capacity, the mind's capacity to manage different things adequately well at the same time. And what these studies showed, Sir Ian Hamilton, a British Empire general of the early 1900s, showed that most people can't handle coordinating more than 5, 6, maybe 7 units at once without a lot of practice. And hence the idea of the span of control is why you have 4 generals underneath the top commander, and then those generals each command a commander, or they command 5 or 6 commanders, and those 5 or 6 commanders are in charge of 8 or 10 captains, and so on and so forth. The entire military hierarchy has been designed through history from this idea of span of control. Think basically under the very simple concept that if a general had 20 people he was giving orders to, very quickly he would become overwhelmed. He would forget whether he told the 9th division to flank or the 10th division to flank or retreat or whatever it is. And so this idea of span of control is something that's important to Bannerlord. Now Bannerlord does allow you to run up to 8 different units. You can set that pre-battle, and in fact I think we'll start heading towards these battles as I talk. But what I would recommend is most players start with 4, maybe 5. Now we're going to have a battle here against the aserai first. I would start with 4 or maybe 5 and then work your way up. In fact, if you explore my channel a little bit, we've already done a playlist series that covers what I consider intermediate tactics. It's sort of a springboard to advanced tactics. Most newer or intermediate maybe you've played for a month or 2 are going to want to start with intermediate tactics in your field command before you just start trying to command 8 different battlefield units. This episode is more for players that are quite advanced in their tactics and are capable of handling 6, 7, 8 different units without you want some of this, all right, without too much difficulty. And in this episode I'm going to describe why I think you want to use 8 and then how I tend to use my 8 different army groups. So these aserai scum constantly attacking us, and in fact this is probably these fucks sieging my cities and castles here. We're going to teach them a lesson today in combat. I wasn't able to go deep into my army group composition so much, but I do have another episode coming out soon that will cover that. The bottom line is you want to have a fairly balanced army. You want to have a relatively similar amount of infantry and archers, and then maybe a little bit less cavalry. Some people like more cavalry than archers and infantry, but the way I fight, I actually prefer less cavalry and more archers than anything else. So we're going to take you into the pre-battle setup here. You can see we're running all normal player damage. Some people are shocked at how decisive we win battles and assume that we must be using some kind of cheat or whatever. But we're just going to illustrate superior tactics here, and with those superior tactics, we're going to we're gonna fucking dominate this opponent. So this is a pretty good battlefield actually for showing you some tactics. It's nice and wide open here. I'll be able to really spread my troops out and sort of show you the different processes I use during my field command. The very first thing I do anytime they give you this kind of a battle setup is take my time and sort of look around for terrain advantages. Sometimes you'll have a little gully or something like that where the enemy can be sort of channeled into and massacred more readily, or you'll have a rock outcropping on a side that gives you a nice elevational advantage. In fact, because the aserai, knowing your opponent's an important part of battle as well. I know the aserai are going to have a lot of horse archers. I'm actually going to use this little rock area here to sort of protect some of my archer units. And you'll see as I sort of lay out this army group and sort of spread the troops around, how I use my different units in combat. So we're just going to go nice and slow through this. This is my first division, of course. This is an infantry division. Now you're able to, with this button here, give these divisions essentially very specified troops. In other words, if you wanted your infantry to have almost exclusively pikes, right? Pikes and pole arms and spears, you would click this button here, right? Make sure that button is checked, and then your other infantry groups select other things, right? So my other infantry group is typically the 6th. What I would then do is come over here and make sure that the pike was not checked, right? And what that means is the game is going to try to prioritize and put more pikes in this division, right? So that's the first important concept to understand. You have this ability to sort of micromanage your groups before battle. So in this infantry group, we're going to have pikes, shields, and heavy armor, and that's because my first infantry is almost always sort of the front vanguard that the enemy is going to be attacking, right? You're gonna have some troops that no matter what every battle are going to really take a beating, but naturally you want those to be some of your best troops. Now you can click this button as well, and that gives preference to higher tiers. That means that your very best infantry will be put into that division, and that's in case if you want to have like a reserve unit back here. Sometimes in my 8th division, in fact, I'll click this button. This is my 8th Corps. I'll talk about it in detail more, but these are basically badass troops that I hold and reserve or use for specific purposes in battles. So I've got my infantry here, and they are now assigned to these sort of specialties, right? Heavy armor, pikes, and shields. And there's a captain that's in charge of this group, right? Now, of course, he's far exceeding the span of control I just told you about, but it's a video game. Evidently, this guy's got ESP with all his troops, and he's easily able to tell these fucks exactly what to do at all time. So if you hold down the tab button or your console equivalent, it shows you all of the bonuses that this guy gives that division. And I've covered this at length in other videos. I won't spend forever on it. He also has a banner. You see the increased melee damage, right? You want your infantry to do more melee damage. Sometimes you might want them to move faster or take less range damage or something like that. I do change my banners depending on who I'm playing or the battle. You know what I'm facing in that particular battle. But in this case, increased melee damage of 15%. That's the highest, the best banner you can get as far as output of damage. That's going to work just fine. And again, holding down this tab button, you see there's this giant fucking list, almost the whole screen of combat benefits that this whole infantry group of, we're actually going to increase it a little bit here, of almost 100 guys derives this benefit from, right? We're going to move it to about 100 troops there, and we're going to lock it off. The reason you click that lock is then when I come over here to this skirmisher division and I change this number stays the same, right? So I want that infantry division to have their 100 guys and not have the game basically fuck with them when I steal them to other units, right? So right away I'm just going to spread them out into a big long line and put them into shield wall. It's F2, F2, and that means almost every guy with a shield has it basically ready to go. You see they tighten up their formation. You can do it, too deep where it's a little thicker. It depends on the situation. In a really wide open battlefield here against an opponent where I'm outnumbered, I'm going to make a longer, wider line, and that's because I want their arrows, the enemy arrows, to be shooting at a wide target here, so that they're not getting concentrated arrow and javelin fire, right? So we're putting the first, that's our main vanguard, right in the front there. sort of center picture of the enemy. Okay. Now I've got other heroes that I've got to give, that I've got to assign to different groups, but I'm going to do that. You see, I have some groups here that are missing heroes. Right. So there's our first. Now on this flank, usually the aserai brings horse archers and javelin fucks around on your left flank. So I'm going to prepare for that. There's two different things I'm going to do. The first I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this second cavalry here. I'm going to change this guy. Decrease taken melee damage. So this captain here, who's got nice perks, right? He's 330 riding, right? So this is one of my savage companions. I'm going to assign him as the captain. You see, decrease taken melee attack damage. Now the reason I want that is because this group is going to be effectively a shield wall protective group for an archer division, and I'll show you precisely what I mean. So I want it, give or take about those many units. Now I'm going to give it some assignments here. I want them to make sure that they have pikes and shields, right? I'm not necessarily worried about heavy armor. Almost all your cavalry will have heavy armor once you're in late game like I am, so I'm not too concerned about that. So then I'm taking my second cavalry, and I can't assign them yet because there's this little dotted line. It's hard to see here. It's this little gray line that you can't assign your troops past, right? Basically, it's like dodgeball. You're not allowed to cross the line before the game starts. But what we're going to do is we're going to put them right here. And when the battle starts, I'm going to use this little raised plateau. I'm going to put skirmishers here. I'll get to my skirmishers. And then I'm going to put this cavalry division sort of in front at an angle of those skirmishers to help resist cavalry attacking those skirmishers and give them sort of a flanking protection of shields from projectiles, right? So it's hard to envision it now. I'll slow everything else down once the battle starts, but that's the second division. They've got decreased taken melee damage because they're going to be in this fray. There's also a possibility at some point I shift them into a sacrificial square. That's a strategy that I employ in a lot of my videos. I may even do it here just for demonstration purposes. And of course, if they're in a square, that means they're going to be out here sort of as bait for the enemy and in the most danger of all the different troops, right? So this decreased melee damage combined with 30 very strong heavy cavalry is going to give them a good chance to survive. All right, so the third division, this is going to be in this battle also a shield wall cavalry. And I know that seems strange. A lot of people use their cavalry to attack. I may end up using him to attack. I've got this guy's increased charge damage and a nice big long group of perks, right? We're going to put him in charge of this cavalry division. I know it's cavalry. I've been jumped on a few times by the grammar police. I've been saying cavalry, like with an L, for my whole 50 years of life, so just bear with me. My mother's an English teacher, so I'm sure she would retch too every time I said cavalry, but I'm doing my best, folks. So this group, I'm actually going to assign shields and armor, because what I'm planning on doing with these guys is using them also in a defensive line. And again, I know that seems strange to you, but I want protection from the very many aserai cavalry that are going to be coming our way, right? So this guy does have a banner that increases charge damage. It's kind of worthless in a defensive function, but as you'll see at some point, I'll probably use this group to charge, right? So we're going to drag the third cavalry over here, and as you'll see, their function will vary depending on how this battle is going. I'm going to try to have most of this battle in this little gully here, this little lower gully, and the reason is because the aserai here are going to have a huge infantry block of very nasty infantry. Excuse me. And we're going to want to try to trap that infantry and annihilate them here in this valley. Apart from their javelin throwers, this infantry division is going to be their biggest threat to us, right? Now this plateau, I'm going to want to have archers on. Now I have two different archer divisions. You see the 4th and the 5th. This one needs a captain. Let's see here. We got both these people here, both of these companions, very high level companions, have nice banners. Decreased taken range damage is very nice on archers, right? That means if they're having an archery duel, they're taking a lot less range damage than they would be if they didn't have this banner assigned, right? You can see also he's got some really good skills. This is one of my crossbow. I think he's crossbow in two-handed weapon. I'm going to keep him as the captain for this group. The size of my archer divisions is roughly the same, right? The rest of the archers, if you're wondering, 40%, 43% is in the 8th Corps, and you'll see how that works later. So I tend to position my armies in the same spots roughly in most battles, and that's so I can keep track of them, right? If you're using the 4th archers on this on the left flank in one battle and the right flank the next, I can promise you eventually you will have difficulties with that. You will forget where your troops are, and that will be a problem for you. Also on this side, I'm putting on my skirmishers here. So I kind of skipped over the 5th archers, but they're basically the same, right? I've got a nice high quality, very high quality captain. I understand, you know, a lot of people watching this are scoffing at my captains, saying, well, that's bullshit. Look at these guys' stats. But I'm also very late game. My campaign is literally 5,000 game days old. So if you get to this stage as well, you will have captains that are level 40, level 50 like I do, that are near maxed at a lot of their requisite skills. So I've got a nice captain with the 5th archers. The 4th archers are over here. We're actually going to put the 5th archers right behind the infantry. Right, they're protected somewhat there. They're in spread formation, which is F2, F3. I don't want them taking a huge amount of arrows. And as you can see, they have a little bit of an elevation advantage. I like to get kind of down to troop level here to see their line of sight. They can kind of shoot down into this gully. Okay. So first infantry guarding the 5th archers. Now, understandably, the enemy is going to be coming around behind at some point. More than likely, we will assign. What I mean by behind is they will have their cavalry with javelin throwers, and they probably have some horse archers. I will probably assign this 3rd division, depending on the timing of things, to attack those aserai cavalry. Right, they're going to be behind us where our archers are more vulnerable, and these shield walls don't protect them as much. That's another purpose for this 3rd cavalry. Okay, cavalry. All right, so the 8th Corps. Let me back up. Actually, the 6th skirmishers. 6 skirmishers are over here. They're going to be right ahead of the archers. So in this little elevated spot here, I'm going to have my skirmishers kind of out in front here. It looks a little bit dangerous. They're going to be sort of in this area here. But the idea is I want them throwing javelins. You can see how it's kind of downhill here. If I can channel the enemy infantry into this area here, these skirmishers will be able to fire javelins down at maybe they throw 40 or 50 yards, if you can envision that. That's probably 40 or 50 yards. They can throw javelins pretty well at that distance. And then at about 20 yards, it's very high damage, very lethal. Now, they're also exposed. They're going to be out here kind of on their own, with the exception that I might have this 2nd cavalry out ahead of them in either a shield wall, or I'll put them in a square, attracting some of the enemy attention. I might even put this square over here. That way the skirmishers can pound the enemy infantry if the enemy infantry takes the bait of this square, right? The point, though, is that I'm going to have these skirmishers out in front. Finish my point here. These skirmishers are high level. Right? These are a lot of my high level companions. You know, each one of these would be a very adequate captain on their own. But what we're going to do is we're going to overload. Let's see here. Yeah, so you see 303 throwing and athletics. This is another very high level companion. And I'm just going to, I think, yeah, she's lower level, so we're going to assign her as well. These are, so this is an archer, so we'll stick her in the 8th Corps. And then, okay, so here, perfect. This captain, decreased taken ranged attack damage. This is going to be my skirmisher captain. She's got a nice skill set that'll lend a lot of perks to that whole division. I'm going to assign her the leader of that division. So this 50 skirmishers is going to be paramount to this victory. It's not the decisive factor, but with all these high-level companions in here, these companions are tough. They're heavily armored. Some of them do have like bear helmets on and stuff like that, and I do that so I can sort of recognize a lot of my companions on the battlefield. Right, I give them sort of a distinct look. You'll notice like almost all of them, it seems like they look a little different. This one, she looks almost like like something out of Troy or something like that. So this skirmisher division is going to be a vital part of this battle, and what they're going to be doing is flanking the enemy. The enemy comes and attacks this 1st infantry like I'm hoping. These skirmishers will be pounding them with projectiles from the side. Right. Now, the other thing you can do with skirmishers is you can move them around, right? Most of these companions have high athleticism, so if the enemy starts veering towards the skirmishers, they pull back. That was the entire point of medieval skirmishers, is their mobility and their lower armor made them basically difficult for the enemy troops to get a hold of without having cavalry attack them. And these troops could harass the enemy as their main vanguard came in, okay? You know, if you can imagine a heavily armored troop still gets totally annihilated by a 6-foot a 6-foot javelin being hurled by an Olympic athlete. In fact, if you think about the Olympic Games, they sort of originated from the idea of Greece, with all these elite athletes being your warriors of the time, right? So the guys that are still throwing javelins today in the modern Olympics are sort of this vestige of this ancient part of human history. So skirmishers here, they're in a weird spot, and that's because I can't physically move them up there yet. I've got enough time before this battle starts that we'll be able to position them there, and they're going to support the infantry. Behind them, we're going to move this archer division, right? The archers will be a little bit protected by the skirmishers. Now, don't forget, too, the skirmishers have versatility. I could form these guys into a square. If you look down at a lot of these guys, they've got shields. Not every one. Actually, almost all of them. They have shields, and so what I can do is if they get swarmed or cavalry starts swarming them, I can form them into a square as well, and these guys will do a very adequate job, or even a shield wall, of protecting themselves, right? So your skirmishers are highly versatile, they're death dealing, and they're going to be a tremendous value on the flank here. The horse archers, I don't have very many. I've got a nice captain over there in charge of them. Not really even going to talk about them too much because I'm not playing Khazate or the Aserai. Some other time I'll talk in greater detail about horse archers. Just know that a lot of times they're going to be following my character around, especially early in the battle when I'm on horse. So the final group is the 8th Corps. The 8th Corps I'm going to start at the back, just like famous military groups would do. Just like Napoleon, he would keep his old guard in the back, and there's two reasons. The first, I want them to be used when I really need them. So I don't want them getting decimated early in this battle. I want them at full health. But the other important reason is that I have a mod that increases death for all of the nobles in the game, right? You get very few deaths in vanilla version of Bannerlord. Well, my version increases death like 50-fold, 50x for nobles. So if I'm getting all of my companions killed every battle, I'm literally losing a companion or two every battle, right? And the war of attrition, fighting against the whole map, I would pretty quickly lose, right? So we're going to keep them in the rear. But you're going to see this unit is also highly versatile. I use them in many different functions. There are archers and infantry in it. In fact, there's a few cavalry you see there, cavalry. But here's the key. Increased troop movement speed 30%. So I've got a very high rank companion that's leading them, but her banner basically makes these guys, these are the true Olympic athletes of the field. They are rocketing around the battlefield. Most of them have 300 plus athletics. And so these guys are literally moving like Usain Bolt in and out of battle. And you'll see as this battle progresses how that works. So I'm going to jump into battle here, but I will try to slow it down as the various different stages of battle occur.
Cavalry! Cavalry!
So I'm a little bit more downhill than I want to be. I'm going to actually, very early on, I'm going to position this 3rd Cavalry out here. In fact, let's already, we're going to form a bait ball out here. We're going to move our 3rd kind of right out here in the middle, and as soon as they're out there, we're going to get them into a square. Now remember what I said, I want my skirmishers over here. I want them right on the edge of this hill, sort of raining death down into this valley. They're in spread. And then I'm going to bring up the 4th archers behind them, right? This little plateau. You can see how this nice little plateau here, if I can get the enemy to come in here, they're going to be in trouble. Now, they're at higher ground right now, so they had the tactical advantage early on, but I think we'll be able to mitigate that once the true death dealing starts. So my skirmishers are there. I just hold the 6 button, or rather push the 6 button. It shows where they're assigned. And I want the archers kind of assigned behind them on that hill, also in spread. This 2nd Cavalry I'm going to bring forward, and they're going to be a shield wall right up here. Now, that may seem strange. There's just a big long shield wall there. I want them to reduce the amount of death that this incoming cavalry is going to deal to us. Meanwhile, these guys, I'm dragging them a little bit closer. That's my 3rd Cavalry on the far side there. As soon as they get there, I'm moving them into a square. Moving my infantry up a little bit here. We want to take advantage of this little gully. Right behind them come the 5th archers. And then the 8th Corps, I'm kind of positioning between my 2 different troops. Finally, I'll have my 7th, my horse archers follow. Now, this 2nd cavalry, I will move around frequently. In this case, I'm actually kind of shifting them to sort of counter the enemy movement. As this enemy movement moves around us, I'm moving that cavalry division. Come in here a little bit with the 7th. These are our horse archers. We can do a little bit of damage, a little bit of discouragement to the enemy from them rushing in too fast. So on the other side, they're charging with cavalry. It's causing some carnage over there. They're sort of running through archers. You can't defend everything at once, especially when you're outnumbered 2 to 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this very quickly before we get to the infantry. I'm counting on this cavalry in a block here to sort of slow down this infantry. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to assign that cavalry division over there now to attack these cavalry. So that's second. They get assigned to attack there. Right? Those guys are now assigned to destroy them. They have one job. Last thing I'm going to do here is their infantry is moving in fast, so I'm moving my guys back. I want a little bit more time for these skirmishers to start dealing death to their main infantry wave. So I moved that guy back. That's the first, and the fifth archers both back. Okay. Now we're going to do a little bit of skirmishing here with the enemy. It's kind of a scrum because they sent the units in so aggressively, but their main infantry group isn't really reached us yet. It's kind of in the middle there. It's sort of stalled out. In fact, we're going to do a little bit more stalling with that infantry group. I'm taking my first infantry group. It seems crazy to do this, but I'm sending them way back. Same thing with the archers, way back there. I want these guys basically pulled out of the face of the enemy. Similarly, I'm dragging my skirmishers and fourth archers that are both up here, and we're pulling them back as well.
Soldiers!
Skirmishers get repositioned a little bit further up that ridge, and these archers I'm actually going to bring behind the enemy. Right? So look at this bank here. If I assign the archers there, they're shooting the enemy right in the back. Right? Meanwhile, in the middle of the battlefield, it's just kind of a cavalry scrum. There's a bunch of different cavalry that are fighting. In some cases, of course, the enemy's chasing some of my units. That's fine. What we're doing, though, is we're opening up this center and sort of trapping this 286 infantry. You see how big their infantry division is? It's like as many troops as I have in my whole army.
So follow me!
So we've backed our units off some. Their infantry continues to pursue, but they're sort of pursuing both sides, right? They're kind of coming towards both different infantry groups. I've got my 5th archers, my 8th corps back there, and my infantry's all moved back. And their infantry's kind of confused. It's in the middle here in a big confused knot, right? There's cavalry sort of skirmishing in there. What I mean by skirmishing is sort of some small scale fighting, right? But their infantry hasn't reached any of its intended targets yet. Part of that's our speed, but part of that's our understanding of the battlefield and preparing for it. Meanwhile, look at all the darts, arrows, javelins flying in there. What we're doing is we're weakening this infantry corps before we attack it from multiple sides.
Cavalry!
So I'm still dragging my 7th horse archers behind me. The moment is coming soon where we're going to spring into battle here. The enemy actually seems like they're chasing my skirmishers more than anything, but you can see there's distance between them. Meanwhile, my archers are now on the other side there, and they're shooting the enemy in the back. Like these guys, their infantry is sort of trapped here on this battlefield. On the far side is my 1st infantry and my elite 8th corps with an archer division. And then here is skirmishers that are all throwing javelins, right? They're fucking guys up with javelins. And then this 4th archer corps, I moved all the way behind the enemy. Now, I've got this cavalry here. We're going to use them as well. This group, I'm putting them in line formation and telling them to follow me because we're going to ram it right up the fucking ass of this infantry group. Now I'm pulling my 6th corps, that's my skirmishers, telling them to follow me as well because I'm dragging them towards the enemy. Same thing with the 1st infantry. I want all the units now essentially converging. Finally, I'm pulling the 8th corps because we're going to fucking totally annihilate this infantry on 4 different sides. Right? I'm sort of charging through here. These first units, this 1st infantry will move kind of slow, but we're just going to collapse on this enemy and watch the death. Now, at this stage, I want all these units to attack, so it's going to be a bit of a blur of commands. I basically just told all of those different units to attack, and so you have infantry crashing in behind, cavalry crashing behind their infantry. The 1st Elite Corps, this is my heavy infantry, are charging in. The skirmishers are up on that ridge charging in. The 8th Corps is charging in. And then that cavalry branch that I sent is also charging right into the enemy. Meanwhile, these archers are still pounding the enemy in the back with arrows. So now I'll just let it play out. Of course, we can get in here and deal a little bit of death ourselves, but look at the screen up on the right. Look at how many enemies dying, and look how many we're dying, even though we're outnumbered here, and that's because the enemy's being attacked on 2 or 3 sides, right? This is an absolute massacre. They have no support, and what I mean by no support is their archers are way the fuck up there on the hill, right? They're watching their compadres get completely destroyed. Their archery is not of very much effect, but they will have effect soon. In fact, I already see reinforcements coming in. So let's counter that too. How do you counter that, right? So we're going to bring our cavalry up, call the 2nd and the 3rd to follow me. These archers are pretty well positioned already, but I'm going to face them to the enemy now, kind of turning them. These archers way back there are not. So I'm moving them also up onto the flank here, this little elevated zone, to sort of have a better shot at the enemy. Now, that enemy force is basically annihilated. I see a handful of guys still fighting in there, but that 300-person infantry wave got absolutely eviscerated. So the archers are up there now on that wall. I'm also going to put the skirmishers and 8th Corps.
Move! Soldiers! Forward!
Meanwhile, I have this cavalry following me. Watch what we're going to do here. See these archers?
Riders!
Have a little present, boys. Now, a lot of people do this differently than I do. All I'm doing in this case is sending them in lines, right? The 3rd and the 2nd, they're in lines, right? Just a line formation that I drew out. And all I'm doing now is telling them to do shield walls. And that might seem really strange to you, but I want these 39 cavalry, basically to isolate this 85 archers, scare them a little bit, right? They start running around when cavalry come up in their face. But the main thing I want them doing is distracting and deterring them from shooting down in here into the battlefield. I want this infantry group all to ourselves. They're still getting shot by guys. In fact, that's my horse archers behind me, mangling guys with javelins. And we're now going to focus on this infantry group next. So skirmishers, move into that wall. In fact, we're going to move them farther on the enemy's flank. The 1st infantry, we're going to keep moving straight at the enemy, right? The enemy actually looks like they're routing or panicking at this stage. This has been such an ass whipping. We'll just assume that they're going to fight, and we'll play this out. But there's a possibility that this has been such a nasty massacre for them already that they want out of here. That they want to go back to their huts and their desert, and they've had enough. In fact, that does appear the case. These guys are fucking out of here. You can hopefully see what would have happened with this next battle. Hopefully you see the effectiveness of this cavalry. What this did basically is it isolated their archers and prevented them from having a real effect in the battle. At this stage I'm just sending my cavalry off to pursue and destroy the rest of the enemy. Or you guys can play too. But hopefully from this little overhead perspective, you also get yet another view of what would have happened had the enemy decided they wanted another round, another ass whipping. You've got the 1st Heavy Infantry Division there in shield wall, right? They're just laughing at the archers. On the flank, elevated, you have the elite 6th and 8th Corps. Most of these guys are giddy, right? They've lopped off 4 or 5 heads in this battle already. Some of them still have ammunition. I still see them shooting their arrows. And then behind them are these 2 archer divisions. We're using the terrain. We're using this heightened area. And of course, we used flanking and combined attacks there with our cavalry to completely annihilate the enemy. And the overall effect is an absolute massacre. The battle's not officially over, and that's because there's probably a few of their cavalry that are still skirmishing. But as you can see, yeah, we lost 45 guys, 5 dead, and they lost, hundreds of their warriors in this battle. These guys are sort of not quite retreating now, but as you can see, this battle is basically over. Everything's over now except cutting off a few more heads. So hopefully this battle was a good illustration of why I think it's very valuable to have your 8 different army groups. It does take a lot of skill, a lot of practice to operate and to command adequately all 8. Now I actually find slo-mo, at first I didn't like slo-mo, but as I got better with the slo-mo, trying to illustrate this to people, it became a lot easier for me to use slo-mo and command my troops. And I find it easier to command army groups. Cut some more heads off of these fucking scum. You dare attack us. You lose your heads and arms. I actually find it easier in battles to use slow-mo. At first, again, it was jarring, but if you're just learning how to command 6, 7, 8 army groups, I would recommend you start with some slow-mo and go from there. And of course, in most battles, I don't use it much because I think to me it sort of breaks the immersion a little bit of big battles. But in this case, yeah, this guy's like holding out. No, you're gonna hold out, you're gonna die, bitch. I think it's a little bit immersion breaking if you use slow-mo in big battles, but if you're learning, right, of course, immersion's irrelevant, right? You're learning how to play the game. These guys just won't fucking run away. Anyways, I'm not going to wait for the final screen to conclude this battle. You can tell it's over. We've got 45 deaths and they've got 500,000. My cavalry evidently have to beat the sense into the last handful of guys here to flee. So, yeah, you know what? We're going to fucking axe you bitches. Every battle I like to have a few axe kills, right? It makes my day go better. It's better than coffee to come in here and just savage some fucks. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully this is very helpful for players that are in the intermediate stage. Again, if you're new starting the game, I recommend that you check out my Intermediate Tactics series. It's an 8-part series designed to sort of take you step by step from sort of the early mid-stage of commanding your troops all the way to this more advanced level. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all the comments. Please subscribe if you're interested. I'm releasing literally 3 videos a week right now. I had about a shingles where I cranked out a huge amount of videos just sitting in my room playing and narrating. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you folks next time.